Hello friends, today we will dive into the world of elegance, sophistication, and the inaudible rustle of a pencil on paper. This is the story of an artist who knew how to convey more emotion with 3 strokes than other artists could with an entire gallery of portraits. We will talk about Paul César Helleu, a man who went down in history as the poet of female beauty of the Belle Époque era. In this video, you will see his amazing pastel and graphic works, the very ones where a few lines create a whole character, and a woman's gaze on paper sometimes speaks even more than on a canvas painted with oil. And by the way, I'm very curious. How do you feel about such quick sketches and studies? Should we create separate videos about similar works by other artists? Write in the comments. Your opinion will influence the topics of future episodes. Our story begins in France. Paul César Helleu was born on December 17, 1859, in the town of Vannes, in Brittany. He showed an interest in art at an early age, but his real journey began in 1876, when 17-year-old Paul moved to Paris to study at the École des Beaux-Arts. His mentor was the renowned master of academic painting Jean-Léon Gérôme, strict, demanding, but the very person who nurtured a generation of great artists. It was in Paris that the young Helleu immersed himself in the atmosphere of the artistic explosion of the late 19th century. Here he met future stars such as John Singer Sargent, James McNeill Whistler, and Claude Monet, and witnessed the birth of new art movements. Imagine, he was forming as an artist at a time when academicism clashed with impressionism, tradition with rebellion, and Paris was the center of the entire art world. Helleu initially tried to follow the academic path, but he was always drawn to lightness of line, to portraiture, to the ability to capture not just the features of a woman's face, but her mood. He realized early on that sometimes a single expressive glance can tell a story deeper than all the details around it. And this would become his artistic signature. This first period marked the birth of a style that would later enchant Europe and bring him worldwide fame. But the main discovery that would change his whole life was still ahead, in the form of a young girl named Alice Guérin. After several years in Paris, filled with learning, doubts, and the search for his own voice in art, a moment occurred in the life of Paul César Helleu that determined his fate forever. And this moment is not an exhibition, not an award, not a critical breakthrough. It was a meeting. Helleu was commissioned in 1884 for a portrait of a young girl named Alice Guérin. She was gentle, modest, brought up in a religious family, not at all like the glamorous secular models of Paris. When Paul saw her for the first time, he was so fascinated by her natural beauty and pure, calm presence that, as he later admitted, he could not continue the work with excitement. He will write this portrait more than once, and with each new image on paper or canvas, their mutual sympathy will only grow. In 1886, they got married, and it was the marriage with Alice that became for Helleu the key that opened the door to him in the highest circles of French society. After all, Alice not only became his wife, she became his muse, model, inspiration, and, in fact, a brand of his work. Her image is elegant, feminine, intelligent, has become the aesthetic that will later be recognized in every Helleu work. Their home in Paris turned into a kind of salon where artists, writers, musicians, aristocrats, and collectors gathered. It was thanks to Alice that he entered a world where refined manners, subtle humor, and beauty aesthetics were as important as brush technique. Their guests included Marcel Proust, Robert de Montesquieu, John Singer Sargent, and a host of socialites who dreamed of Helleu creating their portrait. Alice was not just a model. She shaped his taste and helped find his woman in art. Elegant, modern, a little dreamy, with pride and quiet confidence. This is how we see most of the heroines of his etchings and pastels. From that point on, Helleu's career began to take off relentlessly. His works were recognized, discussed, and his wife's portraits became an icon of the Belle Époque style. But real fame lay ahead, and she will come by a technique he will master so brilliantly that his name is still associated with her to this day. If the first steps in art gave Paul César Helleu the ground for development, and the meeting with Alice Guérin, muse and style, then the technique that required jewelry precision and an incredible sense of the drypoint line brought him real fame. In the late 1880s, Helleu discovered this technique thanks to his acquaintance with the works of James Tissot. Drypoint is a type of etching, but instead of acid, the artist works directly on the copperplate with a needle, leaving a soft, velvety line that keeps the hand warm. This art is complex. One plate can be printed only a few dozen times, after which the furrows are erased. And that is why each print has a sense of uniqueness. Helleu owned drypoint like no one before him. He created subtle touches of sophisticated portraits of women, refined, graceful, sometimes with a touch of capriciousness or gentle melancholy. His line was lively, smooth, light. It seemed as if he did not draw metal, but wrote with air. The result? A real artistic breakthrough. His works began to be exhibited not only in France, but also in London, New York, Boston, and Brussels. By 1900, he had created over 2,000 etchings, a staggering number for an artist working in such labor-intensive techniques. It is during this period that a person appears in his life who plays a special role, poet aesthete Robert de Montesquieu, one of the most influential figures of Belle Époque. He became not only a friend of Helleu, but also his lawyer in secular and artistic circles. Montesquieu later wrote a book about Helleu, which was published in 1913 with reproductions of 100 of his prints and drawings. This volume remains a comprehensive biography of Helleu. Montesquieu introduced Helleu to Parisian literary salons, where he met Marcel Proust, who also became his friend. Proust created a literary portrait of Helleu in his novel, a memory of Elster's past as an artist, and thereby forever inscribed Helleu in the history of literature. In 1904, Helleu receives the honorary award Légion d'honneur, official recognition of France for his contribution to the arts. It was a moment of triumph when the talented guy from Vannes became a symbol of the sophistication of Belle Époque. His technique conquered the hearts of Europe, but Helleu did not stop. There were new hobbies, new topics, and even a new continent. In the next part, we'll talk about luxury life, travel, yachts, Versailles, and the unexpected American twist in his career. When the Belle Époque era blossomed, the name Paul César Helleu had already become a symbol of sophistication, style, and female grace. His dry needle and pastel conveyed the lightness of touch, the shine of silk, the eyes of Parisian women who seemed to live their lives right on the sheet. But behind this aesthetic ease stood a difficult path, the support of friends, and the courage to look for oneself in new worlds. One of the most important people in Helleu's life was John Singer Sargent, an artist 4 years his senior and already recognized talent. Their friendship began in their youth and lasted until the end of their lives. It was Sargent who supported Helleu at a time when his works were not yet being bought. He was the first to purchase one of his paintings, a gesture of trust, which became the impetus for Helleu's belief in his own style. Later, they often traveled together, painted, discussed art, and it was this friendship that shaped Helleu's taste, identity, and direction in many ways. By the turn of the century, Helleu had become one of the most fashionable artists in Paris. He depicted Parisian Belle Époque like no other. Elegant, modern, with character, in hats and flowing dresses. His studio became a place where socialites, writers, and actresses dreamed of getting to. His muse, Alice's wife, was a face that made him famous in the art world. Her image became a recognizable standard of the era. His life was full not only of art, but also of passion for the sea. Helleu took up sailing, owning 4 yachts during his lifetime. Ships, harbor views, life in the port of Deauville, and women in their fashionable sea attire became subjects for many bright and inspired works. But Helleu was never just a Parisian artist. In search of new opportunities, he went to New York several times, where his style instantly conquered the American elite. His portraits were commissioned by the Vanderbilt, Morgan, and other influential families. On his second trip to the United States in 1912, Helleu was commissioned to design the ceiling of New York Central Station. He decided to paint a mural depicting a blue-green night sky covered with zodiac star signs crossing the Milky Way. Although the astrological pattern was widely admired, the ceiling was covered in the 1930s and not fully restored until 1998. But the world, which loved beauty and carefreeness so much, was constantly changing. Events were coming that would destroy Belle Époque forever. However, even the brightest eras have their finale. After the First World War, the world changed so dramatically that the sophistication of Belle Époque suddenly seemed like something from a distant dream. Glamour salons, luxury toilets, theaters, coffee shops, all that Paul César Helleu, so inspired to sing, was disappearing before our eyes. The world demanded new forms of art, sharp emotions, experiments of modernism. Helleu was still trying to regain the feeling of the former wave. In 1920, he made one last trip to New York for a solo exhibition. But America, which once admired him, already lived in different moods. There he finally felt Belle Époque died, and his art remained in the past. This trip became a turning point. Returning to France, Helleu experienced a deep crisis. In a fit of pain and disappointment, he destroyed almost all his copper etching plates, so the same ones that once brought him fame. He returned to family life and withdrew from active creativity. Although the world changed, the artist remained part of the bohemian circle. Among his friends was even Coco Chanel, a woman who also shaped an entire era. It was Helleu who advised her to make beige with her signature color, a shade of sand on the morning beach at Biarritz. This color forever became the DNA of Chanel style. And symbolically, although Helleu himself left, his aesthetics continued to live. His son Jean Helleu and grandson Jacques Helleu became art directors of Parfait Chanel, continuing the style and sophistication of the family already in another dimension of art. Planning a new joint exhibition with friend Jean-Louis Farine, Helleu died suddenly in 1927 at the age of 67 after an operation in Paris. But his art, despite the decline in popularity after the war, is gradually returning to the world. Today, the online catalog raisonné of his works is being created to collect and preserve the artist's legacy for future generations. Friends, if you watched this video to the end, thank you very much for your attention. Your support is exactly what inspires me to create such stories about great artists of the past. If you're close to Helleu aesthetics, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. I especially want to thank every follower who has already used the hype function and voted for it in our previous videos. Don't forget to share this video with your friends. Perhaps you will help them discover the world of Helleu paintings for the first time.